Today's yoga session for the lower back is a Yin Yoga session, so you'll need a bolster. You're going to sit on the bolster here, wriggle right into the beans, and coming into a low squat, you'll rest your elbows on the insides of your knees. So we're going to use this pose, Malasana, supported Malasana, so just take a few moments to come into our breath. Close your eyes, allowing the whole body to sink into the support of the beanbag. Just start to notice your natural breath rhythm, feeling the breath expand into the rib cage and into the belly, and then release. Notice any release into the ankles, into the thighs as well as we settle in here. And keeping that focus on your breath. We're going to stay in Malasana for around a minute in total. I'd recommend closing the eyes during these postures so that you can really focus on the inner sensations. Notice how the body opens up with time spent in the pose. Notice how your breath reacts to being here. And with each exhale, see if you can soften and release deeper and deeper. And slowly start to come out of Malasana. Use your hands to help you. Lift the hips and then wriggle the toes in. Move your bolster out the way as we come down onto hands and knees on the mat. So we're just going to take a few rounds of cat-cow to mobilize the spine. Looking towards your thighs and then looking up, tipping the pelvis. So arching the back, and as you inhale, looking up so the curve in the lower back comes into play. Exhale, arch. Inhale, look up, lift the chest. Just do a few more rounds of these at the speed of your breath, being guided by each inhale and each exhale. And start to find mobility through the whole length of the back. You can add a little sway side to side if that feels good. You can make the circles move on up to your shoulders as well. Anything that frees the body here. I'm coming to pigeon, so you're going to bring your right knee behind your right hand and just ease that right foot out to the side. The further forwards you bring the foot, the more intense the stretch. So just want you to find somewhere that's about 7 out of 10 before you wriggle the left foot back. And then rocking the hips side to side, see if you can settle somewhere in the middle where your left hip is rolling forwards, like it wants to move down towards the left foot. And bring your bolster forwards for you to lean on here. With all of these poses, you don't want the stretch to be too intense, so make sure you're using your bolster to support the body in a way that the sensation in the right leg is just about 4 or 5 out of 10. You might need to use the bolster under your right hip so that it's not having to hold you in midair. So if that's the case, just rest on the elbows and try and settle in as the body opens, maybe moving deeper. With Yin though, we're not aiming to push or strain. We just want to let the body release and relax in its own time. So whilst maintaining a focus on deep rhythmic breath, giving yourself chance to soften into this shape without any expectation of needing to be at a certain distance or a certain depth. Just letting gravity do all the work, letting yourself sink into the support of your bolster, wherever that might be at the moment. Deep inhales, spreading into the back of the rib cage, spreading into the hips. And on each exhale, allowing the whole body to soften down. Visualizing the muscle fibers releasing, relaxing on each out breath. And just take one more breath here. then start to prepare to come out. So walk the hands back in, tuck your back toes under, removing any bolsters out the way if you need to. And you'll lift up into a downward dog. So just give yourself a few moments to bend the knees, let the blood flow come back into both legs. Have a little wriggle through the back and the hips. It's always nice to contrast the stillness of our yin poses with a little movement. Now it's time for the left leg to move forwards. So putting the left foot into a position again where it's not too intense, where you're able to release, and bringing your bolster to the place that gives you the most support, whether that's behind the left buttocks or underneath the chest. And then we settle in for our release here. So focusing on your full rhythmic breath. Each inhale expanding the back of the rib cage. Each exhale feeling the body settle and sink down. Visualizing that expansion of the inhale spreading into the glutes, into the thighs. And on each exhale, feeling like the legs and the hips mirror the softening that happens in the belly and in the rib cage. So we're kind of riding the waves of the breath through expansion and then softening. Inhales create space. Exhales create softness. Noticing how the sensation might change in the left thigh or in the left hip as we stay in this pose. So perhaps the type of sensation changes, or perhaps the location where you're feeling this changes. Just paying attention, and if you feel like the sensation starts to slip away, then maybe you need to adjust the pose by wriggling the right foot further back, or perhaps lengthening the body further forwards. But you don't need to move deeper into the pose if you still have a sensation. Let's come back up, move your bolster out of the way, walk the hands back and then tuck the toes. Lift the hips to downward facing dog and pedal through the heels. So again, just giving yourself a chance to bring some energy back into the body, maybe lifting heels and then coming back down before coming to seated. And our next pose, you're going to be lying on your back. So carefully release the body down. You're going to take a hold of the right knee and bring it in towards the right side of the rib cage, and then send the left leg away. Really want to press out through that left leg so that we open the front of the left hip. Find your hands around your right shin, and then on your exhales, your focus is on drawing that right knee towards your armpit so it goes kind of outwards and down the side of your rib cage slightly. And on your inhales, your focus is on lengthening your left heel away. So it's like we're creating a diagonal stretch across the body from the left heel through to the right hip, through to the right knee. So really opening through 3 dimensions of the hip here. Using your breath can really help you get deep into this posture. So as you inhale, feel the expansion of your belly and start to visualize that inhale, creating a slight tug on the muscles in the front of the left hip as the belly lifts up. Those muscles that are connected also get stretched up. I'm going to take that left knee in now, just rest for a moment, and then extend the right leg for the same posture on the other side. So the left knee comes in towards the body, slightly out to the side, so you're coming towards the armpit rather than the midline. And your right leg extends away. Now that you know the physical posture that you're aiming for, let's focus on the breath. So really use the feeling of expansion in the belly to tune into how the muscle fibers and the fascia in the right hip is getting lightly tugged and lengthened with each breath. And then see if you can follow the sensation of softening on your exhale so that your belly softens down, your ribcage softens down, but you also follow that feeling into the hips, especially into the right hip, noticing what happens with each out breath. Maintaining a softness in the face, a softness in the shoulders. And then just extend the left leg away so you can just give yourself a moment to feel what's happening in the front of the hips as we take a mini Shavasana. Just a few moments to tune in, feel the sensations, feel the results of your practice. Totally releasing. Feeling your breath moving in both hips now. Going to bring the right knee in and roll across into a twist. You might find that your knee won't come to the floor, so using a bolster here to support, you just rest your knee and your shin on that bolster. And extend your right hand away. Our intention is to relax the right shoulder onto the floor eventually, but it might not reach the floor either. That's also fine, so if you need to use some cushions or another bolster to support that shoulder, then do. Our intention in our Yin Yoga practice is to create a feeling of safety in the body. So we're always providing support when needed so that the body feels supported, safe, and able to let go. And we're using the breath to help with that letting go. So if you do feel tightness, wherever that might be along the right side, focus your inhales on creating openness, expansiveness in that area. And focus your exhales on releasing and softening into that area. So that each exhale, perhaps you feel like your right shoulder might move a millimeter closer to the ground. Your right hip might release so that the knee feels more able to sink into the weight of the bolster or into the floor. Then coming back to center, just a mini Shavasana again to feel the effects of that pose. Pauses are as important as the poses in yoga. Shift the bolster over to the other side and then ready to twist with your left leg across the body. Again, making sure you're using any support that you need. Making sure that you're using this practice as an opportunity to listen to your body's signals. If you're trying to go too deep, your body will tell you. That's what the tightness we feel in our muscles is. So this practice is about listening to those signals, responding in a compassionate way, providing support, making the body feel safe, making the nervous system feel safe, so that with time, as we stay in the pose, we can release and relax, reprogram the body as to where is an appropriate depth, where is safe to be. And combining that with the breath, combining that with your slow, steady inhales and exhales, you bring the calm into the body, into the mind. Let's just take a few more breaths here, releasing totally anything in the left side, breathing into it. And then returning to center, back to your mini Shavasana. Have a little wriggle of the hips, let the feet fall out to the sides. And just feel the effects of those twists. Coming up carefully, we're going to come into a seated forward fold. So you're going to come up onto your bottom and bring your bolster onto your lap. So bring it right up in towards your tummy, and then supporting your head on your hands, or you could use a block or another cushion just to make sure that your head is supported here. We allow the body to lean forwards and stretch through the back line of the body. As with all of our yin poses, this isn't a deep stretch, and we're also not really fussed about alignment, so you're not trying to keep a straight back or anything. Just let the body extend and roll over the bolster. Focusing the breath into the back of the rib cage. And noticing where in your back you might feel any restriction. See if you can breathe into that space. Allowing total softness, total release on each exhale. Start to come up slowly, moving the bolster behind you now. So we're going to come into a crucifix pose, where you want the bolster to sit across the back of your shoulders, extending the arms out and resting the hands to the floor. So if the hands don't reach the floor, of course you can use extra pillows or blankets underneath the hands. This is a gentle back bend and a gentle chest opener. So we'll channel the breath in this one into the upper front part of the rib cage. Feeling the expansion on the inhale and the exhale. And just notice how your lower back feels in this posture. If you feel like you need a bit more support, the alternative is to turn the bolster lengthways on the mat, so you have it along the length of your spine, bringing it right up against your lower back, and then draping the body over the bolster. Head rests on the back of the bolster here. This is a slightly more intense chest opener, and if you are tight in the front of the shoulders, you might find that you will need more support for the arms. Just making sure if you take this option that it's not too intense. You only really want to be about a 3 out of 10 in intensity in your yin practice. So pay attention to the feedback from the body, and if this is too much, adding as much extra support as you can to create that feeling of support and safety for the body. Focus into wherever you feel this pose doing its work, and use your breath to create space and then softness. Inhale, expansion, and exhale, release the shoulders, release the chest. Let's just take a few last breaths here, noticing how supported you feel by the bolster. And then bringing yourself up to seated, first by the feet coming to the floor and then rolling off the side of the bolster. You can come to any seated position that feels comfortable. Keeping the eyes closed, keeping the feeling of softness that you have from your yin practice. Just take a few seconds to check in with how the whole body is feeling, noticing the effects of that on your mindset, on your breath, saving this feeling of softness and release to your mental hard drive so you can return to it at any point during your day. Bringing your hands together, let the head bow, and then when you feel ready to continue with your day, moving forwards with this sense of stillness within. Namaste.